digital currency is the complete control of money. This is a real line in the sand, and if we allow it to be crossed, what's the future of freedom? There isn't any. And here you now have, just by coincidence, all these countries now introducing digital ID. It's a global agenda instigated by a global network. And people like this guy, Keir Starmer, he's just a gopher. In America, you've got the right using the left as the excuse to take away freedom. This guy's supposed to be of the left, and he's using the right to justify the destruction of freedom. And instead of saying, well, he's left and he's right, we should be saying, what's the outcome? What is the outcome in both cases? Freedom disappears. Freedom of speech disappears. And if people watch the outcome and not the words, not the rhetoric, they'll see that actually, whether it's left, right, or centre, they're going in the same direction. We're all in the gun sights of this cult, this global cult. And while we're fighting each other, they're laughing at us. And it's time to stop. Otherwise, we're going to cross this line, and it's going to be very difficult. The whole
a digital currency to mean you can only spend it on certain things and you can't spend it on others not designated by the government. And it's programmable. It's programmable. They can program a digital currency to mean you can only spend it on certain things and you can't spend it on others not designated by the government. And it's programmable so it can only be spent in a certain area. So if you go outside of your zone, your money won't work. And not only that, it's programmable. They can program a digital currency to mean you can only spend it on certain things and you can't spend it on others not designated by the government. And it's programmable so it can only be spent in a certain area. So if you go outside of your zone, your money won't work. And not only that, it is programmable. They can program a digital currency to mean you can only spend it on certain things and you can't spend it on others not designated by the government. And it's programmable so it can only be spent in a certain area. So if you go outside of your zone, your money won't work. And not only that, and it's programmable so it can only be spent in a certain area. So if you go outside of your zone, your money won't work. And not only that, it means that when you go past one of these number plate cameras when you, quote, shouldn't, you won't be able to challenge the fine because the fine will be taken out of your digital account the moment you transgress. This is what's happening.
Into very small areas. Ultimately, you will not be able to leave them without permission. And it's what I've been calling all these years the Hunger Games Society. And it's simply a global society, centrally dictated, in which communities are held in tiny sectors which are disconnected from other sectors to prevent a unified response to the global tyranny. people will be corralled into very small areas. Ultimately, you will not be able to leave them without permission. And it's what I've been calling all these years the Hunger Games Society. And it's simply a global society, centrally dictated, in which communities are held in tiny sectors which are disconnected from other sectors to prevent a unified response to the global tyranny. People
cash, and you've only got central bank digital currencies. The computer will know what it is you're trying to do before you even do it, and they will prevent you from doing it. If, for example, they say you can't leave your house more than 5 miles, you try and buy a bottle of water 6 miles from home, you won't be able to. I'm not kidding. That's so many reasons why you should retain cash. It's offensive that the politicians believe that they have a right to all of your information at all times. When we lose cash, and you've only got central bank digital currencies, the computer will know what it is you're trying to do before you even do it, and they will prevent you from doing it. If, for example, they say you can't leave your house more than 5 miles, you try and buy a bottle of water 6 miles from home, you won't be able to. I'm not kidding. That's so many reasons why you should retain cash. It's offensive.
Day, remember I told you this, on a Friday, you'll hear about a collapse happening. Saturday morning, you'll go to the bank, banks will be closed, ATMs will not work, you will not have access to cash. And you'll hear there's a financial collapse. Within 3 days, the stores will be emptied. That's a proven fact. If you remember back to COVID, and they didn't cut the money off, people were fist fighting in the aisles of the stores within days over toilet paper. Imagine what they're going to do when there's no access to cash and food. 3 days, stores will be wiped out. Then you're going to start to see looting, rioting, stuff of that nature. Okay? During that period, from the time they cut the cash off to the time they come out and say, hey guys, we're going to save everybody from these evil bankers that stole your money. We're going to give you a percentage of your money back, not the full FDIC stuff. That's bull. So they're going to come and say, we've got a digital currency. This is how we're going to stop these bankers from doing this again because we'll control it. Yeah, everybody's got 30 days to turn their money in or it's going to be worthless. We're switching over. This will happen on
them. They have the power on Europe because they control. They have the power. They have the power on Europe because they control all the people like Bundeskanzler or president or prime minister or whatever there are. They need also the opposition like in Hollywood films. I mean, you need also the opposition, otherwise it's too dangerous to be just in one side.
No real elections anymore.
No, doesn't exist election. Come on. Doesn't, I mean, it's just on the paper because they know how they control this. And how can manipulate the mind of the people to vote exactly what they want. And the process which we are dealing now with this pandemic and all these liars was supposed to be in 2016.
They were pushed into
exactly in a sense to be in 2020 to be a disaster regarding food and water.
Ah, I see.
Which normally they want to arrive in 2025 now.
I see.
So the plan was a little bit changed, and for this reason, of course they will not succeed. This is clear. I mean, the system is almost down. It's but of course there are the last moments, and we have to have the courage now, all of us, to say no.
Nerede olduğumuzu bilmeniz için adımları açıklayayım. Bu 0. aşama hazırlık aşaması Gerçek gösteriyi başlatmadan önce bir karartmaya ihtiyaçları var. Işıkları kapatmalılar, şebekeyi çökertmeliler, günlük hayatın ritmini bozmalılar Doğan. Zaten İran'ı suçluyorlar, karartmaya neden olacaklarını söylüyorlar. İran'da siber saldırılar adli hedef alıyor. Bunlar banka sistemlerinde aksamalara ve yaygın karartmalara yol açabilir. İranlı ajanların kritik Amerikan altyapısına kötü amaçlı yazılım yerleştirmiş olabileceğine inanılıyor. Ama bu sadece parazetler için bir örtü. Birinci adım sahte keşifler. Arkeoloji, eski metinlerin uzaylı kalıntılarının ya da tüm dinlerin sahte olduğuna dair kanıtların ani keşifleri. Şu anda Antarktika'nın altından gizemli sinyaller alıyorlar. Bu bir tesadüf değil. Bu birinci adımın harekete geçmesi. İkinci adım gökyüzü tanrılarını. Gökyüzünü bir ekrana çevirecekler. Tanrıların hologramları dünya çapında belirecek Morgan. Her kültür kendi tanrısını görecek. Sonra pat, hepsi tek bir kurtarıcıyla birleşiyor. Bir mucize değil, senaryolu bir yayın. Üçüncü adım, kafandaki bir ses line. Zihnine fısıldayacaklar, kafatasına ses teknolojisi. Tanrı'nın sana konuştuğunu duyacaksın. Ama bu kutsal olmayacak. Dördüncü adım, sahte kıyamet, sahte uzaylı istilası, doğaüstü olaylar, korku içindeki şehirler. Ve tam kırıldığında çözümü sunacaklar, tek dünya hükümeti, tek sahte din, tam kontrol. Yıllardır duyarsızlaştırıyorlar seni, uzaylılar, UFO'lar, Antarktika gizemleri. Beynini filmler ve sahte sızıntılarla hazırlıyorlar. Şimdi anahtarı çeviriyorlar ve tüm Blue Beam senaryosu sırada. Işık gösterisine kanmadya. Gerçek savaş zihninin için. Amaç küresel, askerileşmiş totaliter bir süper devlet yaratmak only. Bir dünyanın başka bir dünya ile savaşı. Beam projesi nerede olduğumuzu bilmeniz için adımları açıklayayım.
Has zero to do with giving you faster downloads. It is a completely it is a system that is completely geared toward harvesting human data. What it does, it's what they call the Internet of Things. It allows things to interconnect. So if you have an Apple Watch, all the data from your Apple Watch, including your pulse, is going to be available now, and it's going to be sorted, archived, and characterized. Your health data, if Alexis is in your home and hears you cough, if these devices are listening to your cell phone, is listening to you all the time, and all of that information, a billion terabytes of information, is going to now be harvested by big companies like Microsoft, and will be then sorted and sold. And that's why it's worth spending $1 trillion on that, to get all your data. And it's a system of data harvesting and surveillance. It's going to allow these companies to follow you every moment of your life with facial recognition systems, with chips, which of course Gates wants to put in all of us, with biometric systems. Subdermal systems with your GPS from your automobile. One of the things they're going to try to push us to do is away from a cash society to a cashless society, because then they'll have complete control of you. They'll know where you shopped, what you bought, what your buying patterns are. But also, a week ago, the Malibu police ticketed about a dozen surfers that were surfing at Point Doom for using the ocean. Give them $1,000 each tickets. Imagine if we get this 5G system in, the cops won't need to go to the beach and catch them because they'll know you were at the beach. And they'll know from your GPS, from your cell phone, from facial recognition, from cameras that they mounted over where you are and what you did 24 hours a day. And they will simply, because we're a cashless society, remove the $1,000 fine from your payroll account. And that 5G
is in such a structure that it can easily pass into the brain and bring with it viruses and bacteria. That the emulsifiers in vaccines, called polysorbate 80, are used by the pharmaceutical industry to get drugs to pass into the brain across the blood-brain barrier. But they're also in vaccines. And they also attach really strongly to aluminum. So as an adjuvant, aluminum has a kind of structure that binds tightly to the bacteria and the viruses. And then the polysorbate 80, the emulsifier, binds really tightly to the aluminum and to the bacteria and viruses, and can walk into the brain the way a ghost can go through a wall. That the aluminum in vaccines is in such a structure that it can easily pass into the brain and bring with it viruses and bacteria.
Outbreak in 2019 2 times. The second time at Event 201, and who was at Event 201? Avril Haines co-hosted it with Bill Gates. And the head of this Chinese CDC, George Gao, was there. The virus was already circulating in Wuhan at that time. Nobody knew it, but George Gao had to know it. He's the head of the Chinese CDC and the Chinese #1 expert on coronavirus. He comes to New York in October of 2019 and sits down with Avril Haines, the former deputy director of the CIA, today the director of national intelligence, the top spy in our country, and says, and they do a 4-part simulation, and the 4th part is, how do we hide it? And anybody can go on YouTube right now. I can't believe they left it up there. You can go on there, look at Event 201, and look at simulation number 4, and they're talking about George Gao and Avril Haines are talking about how do we get people to censor the social media if they start saying this is from a lab leak. This is before anybody ever heard of coronavirus. Wow. The CIA, other dramatic health effects, and there are literally thousands and thousands of studies in that. I've litigated on that issue, and I've won in the Federal Court of Appeals. So, you could say it's conspiracy theory, but the Federal Court of Appeals, what I've said about 5G is, yeah, it is dangerous. It is underregulated. Other countries regulate it much better than us. And we need to protect our children. We should not be having these antennas on elementary schools. We should be warning people appropriately. Do not put that cell phone next to your head. Because, we're seeing this epidemic now of glioblastomas, and almost all of them are connected to the year that you favor the cell phone with. There's study after study that shows that, and I'm in litigation on that issue right now, and, if we get a fair trial, we're going to win that litigation as well. My concern about 5G is that the RF radiation from 5G is dangerous. It penetrates it disrupts the blood-brain barrier. It also is associated with glioblastomas and other cancers.
var. Yani C40 toplantısı yapılmış mesela yakın zamanda. Burada insanların senede kaç adet elbise giyebileceği, 15 dakikalık şehirlerde nasıl dolaşabileceği, nasıl gezebileceği, kullandıkları kıyafetler, yiyecekler, içecekler, tüketim, her şeyini şekillendirmişler. Aslında dünyaya bir küresel ısınma kılıfıyla bir ayak çekiyorlar. Dijital kölelik ve transhümanizm sistemini entegre etmek. Evet. Yani insansız bir dünyaya doğru evriliyoruz demişti ya Sayın Cumhurbaşkanı. Transhümanizm sistemi işte
asıl
o.
problem.
Evet. Degal diye bir istihbarat sitesi var. Bunlar Amerika'daki CIA ile bağlantılı olan bir istihbarat sitesi. Orada 2025 nüfus verileri, 2025'ten sonraki nüfus verileri incelendi. Türkiye'nin nüfusu 10-12 milyon civarında yakın zamanda erimiş olarak gözüküyor. Tabii bu
understanding of why graphene oxide was being utilized inside the shot. Graphene oxide as a metal is highly conductive of electricity. And one of the things we taught everybody there is that with frequencies, hopefully your audience knows a little bit about electronic, magnetic frequencies or fields, radio waves, microwave radiation, these 5G towers. We were able to show and document that graphene oxide is the metal of choice. When you have ELF wave radiation, 5G radiation, when they turn on 5G, they know that they can get the graphene oxide in your body to activate or send electrical signals along the metal, because the metal conducts electricity, and these EMF waves are electrical frequencies. When the graphene oxide is hit with these, it accentuates and assists them with their circuitry of nanotech that they are also putting inside these shots. We use nanotech to assist to make all humans a part of the Internet of Things. They're trying to connect you to the internet to be able to track you, get information about you, and input thoughts into you. In fact, Dr. Group showed an article there where DARPA said we can use 5G radiation and nanotech, including graphene oxide, to instill in any human suicidal thoughts that will lead to action.
But soon, at least some corporations and governments will be able to systematically hack all the people.
The things we wanted.
Has been declared against you, your family, has been declared against you, your family, your child, your mother. There isn't anything that you have or ever hope to have that they're not planning on taking away. I'm talking about the oligarchy of evil that controls this country. The American dream is over. The American nightmare is here. The big picture, they want it all. They want to enslave your child, your wife, your mother. There isn't anything that you ever had. There isn't anything that you own. There isn't any right that you possess that they're not planning on taking away. Sheeple. Your sheeple. And your children are going to be slaughtered if you go along with the program. It's time to wake the town and tell the sheeple. We're being led like sheep to the slaughter. What is the purpose? A new world order. The United States of America is controlled by this evilarchy. They control the money system. They control the State Department. They control the presidency. On the backside of the dollar bill, you'll find the Illuminati pyramid. Annuit Septus. Novus Ordo Seclorum.
If you look very closely, you will see an owl. So they have a plan to give us a new age
world global occultic religion. They're going to have been deceived so greatly that they'll actually think it's something good. In fact, the whole New Age movement, the New World Order crowd is telling people that the 666 mark of the beast is the most elite thing that could ever happen to them.
No cash. Cashless society. It's ready to go. Disease could be created. In essence, this is what he was saying.
We have new strains of virtually everything that's drug resistant or drug free.
Well, I'm not worried about the old diseases. I'm worried about the ones that they create to bring down the population of the world. They simply want to exterminate them. But that they consider them to be useless eaters.
Words are very important to the Illuminati. These things are manufactured purposely for a purpose. And so I'm saying that there is something organized and directed, and it's here in this country.
Future shocker, biochip. And this is what Anthony showed you earlier, a biochip. That's an injectable computer chip, an economic mark in the back of our right hands or in our foreheads.
You've got a choice. You can join in this fight, or you can die as a slave. Your child
These children are not just kidnapped and in some cases bred by families as a cash crop. We have people in the United States of America that breed children in order to sell them. And when they are sold, they come without birth certificates, which means it's easier to kill them and have no one ask where they are. We're also importing children by the plane load. Again, children who have no documentation. It's not just child slavery or child sex abuse. It's also child torture, because you have adrenalized blood. You have the whole blood drinking ceremony of the satanic world.
The younger the soul, the more innocent the soul, because they've had less chance to sin. So the more innocent the soul that they sacrifice, the more power in the sacrifice. And that was...
These children...
world's most famous and influential people are Satanists. Satanism and its offshoots have been sacrificing humans to the gods, the demons, throughout known history. And the world is run and directed today by satanic initiates following.
Bizi zor günler bekliyor. Endüstriyel gıda bizim sonumuzu getirmiştir. Salam, sosis. Hepsinin içerisinde nitrit var. Nitrozamin. Nitrit ne yapar? Bakteri üremez. Çünkü sucuklar dışarı asıldığı için
Kabbalah, the entire thing is separation of people to Israelitic and non-Israelitic according to the book called Jewish Utopia. Now, they are building their own kingdom. It's the Jewish earthly kingdom with headquarters in Jerusalem, where their AI Messiah will be, and they're going to rule the world through the law. You know, it will be international, one law. One religion, basically Luciferian religion. So yes, in a Talmud, this is the Jewish earthly kingdom, and this is why the Zionist Christianity have embraced Kiliism. They have embraced, or Chiliism, I don't know how you would say. Kiliism. Which means 1,000. 1,000.
Where they get the 1,000-year millennial reign.
Exactly, which is a focus on earthly millennial kingdom And this is how Jews and Christians are getting together, and Christians are so deceived thinking that they are working for the good thing, for the Jews, like they're helping the Jews. The Jews are supposed to get this kingdom. Yet this is Zoharic doctrine, and it does not have good intention. As I said, that they want to rule the world, they want to get Gentile riches, and they want to rule the Gentiles. They don't consider Gentiles fully human beings. And in fact, as an end game, they have this strange doctrine, Adam Kadmon doctrine, which Adam Kadmon originally was, according to Zohar and Talmud, he was androgynous. You know, Adam, like he wasn't male, or he was male female in one body, and this is why you see this transgender agenda today, and there are laws, very serious laws, passing in Alberta, Canada.
Is Zionism behind the transgender movement?
You know, I don't think that, personally, I don't think Zionist Christians are aware of this. They're not aware of many details of what
is Zionism.
But I think that, yes.
Does the transgender movement get its origin in Zionism?
Yes, it gets its origin in Zionism, and it gets its origin in the Talmud, Zohar, and Kabbalah. It's a Kabbalistic doctrine of Adam Kadmon, which is eventually they have this doctrine called Tikkun Olam, repairing the world. Yes. So how do they want to repair the world? They want to bring it to the original. Who was original Adam? He was androgynous. So now they're putting specific things in food and drink, and they're basically their end game is to make humans that on Earth that will survive whatever it is they're bringing androgynous. Transgender agenda.
What they're really trying to do is undo God's creation.
The Zohar, Talmud, and Kabbalah.
Decided in September 20th, 2001, that it would launch 7 wars in 5 years. And you can listen to General Wesley Clark online talk about that. He was NATO's Supreme Commander in 1999. He went to the Pentagon on September 20th, 2001. He was handed the paper explaining 7 wars. These, by the way, were Netanyahu's wars. The idea was partly to clean up old Soviet allies and partly to take out supporters of Hamas and Hezbollah. Because Netanyahu's idea was there will be one state, thank you, only one state. It will be Israel. Israel will control all of the territory. And anyone that objects, we will overthrow. Not we exactly, our friend, the United States. That's U.S. policy until this morning. We don't know whether it will change. Now, the only wrinkle is that maybe the U.S. will own Gaza instead of Israel owning Gaza. But the idea has been around at least for 25 years. It actually goes back to a document called Clean Break that Netanyahu and his American political team put together in 1996 to end the idea of the two-state solution.
Day in the day.
generals called me in. He said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, "No." He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda?" He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we got a good military and we can take down governments." And he said, "I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail." So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, and he said, I just got this down from upstairs," meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, "This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran." About 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon, and one of the generals called me in. He said, "Sir, you got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, No. He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So
I say it's a total loss of privacy and a setup for control. Miss it and you'll be stuck in immigration. Airports shut down, flights grounded. Not dictated by the OECD, where one late payment dings your score. What's for sure is Vietnam is the test and America is next. I've seen this movie in other countries. The trailer says efficiency, the plot twist is control, leaving room for abuse. Vietnam sells this as part of Agenda 2045, and the fallout was apocalyptic. This exposes the trap. One glitch and you're practically locked out of your own life. Picture this, you are sipping your Café Sedan in Saigon and scrolling your banking app, and boom, your bank account vanishes in thin air. No email, no warning, just a digital black hole where your money used to be. Sounds like a nightmare, right? Well, for millions in Vietnam, it's a reality, as Vietnam wiped out over 86 million bank accounts. That's right, 86 million. The official narrative says it's about security and efficiency, but come on, this screams of the World Economic Forum playbook, a stealth strike in the Great Reset Wars. Remember when Vietnam fired 245,000 officials overnight and called it efficiency? And when Vietnam issued the gas vehicle ban starting in 2026? Out over 86 million bank accounts. That's right, 86 million. The official narrative says it's about security and efficiency, but come on, this screams of the World Economic Forum playbook, a stealth strike in the Great Reset Wars. Remember when Vietnam fired 245,000 officials overnight and called it efficiency? And when Vietnam issued the gas vehicle ban starting in 2026?
So digital identification system. Digital identification system that would be directly connected to people's bank accounts and payment apps. So if everybody had a UNID, this would connect the whole world under an identification system, because the UN is all countries. So you wouldn't only have a United States ID, you would also have a UN ID. The UN had this agenda briefing. It's called the Global Digital Compact, an open, free, and secure digital future for all. Now, why would they want to connect to the banking? If there's some way that the whole world is going to communicate under one currency, then they're going to have to be identified under one unit of identification. And so that's why I thought it was interesting that it wasn't just ID, but if this UNID, the goal is to be connected to my banking system, I still think this is so strange because this is directly correlated with the whole idea that the IMF wants to create a global banking system. What's interesting is that when you look at what the World Economic Forum propagates, they want to propagate human identification with a biometric system. And they have this program called the New Champions, where they allow new companies to come in to help them with their agenda. Fingerprint cards joined the World Economic Forum's New Champion initiative, and their whole objective is to create biometrical identifications and put it on debit cards, smart cards, and identification cards. The United
Balıkesir'i, İstanbul'u özellikle Balıkesir'deki fay hattından sarsmaya çalışıyorlar. Yapay bir deprem. Sarsmaya çalışıyorlar şu an. Şimdi arkadaşlar, bana hep soru geliyor durmadan. Soruyorlar arkadaşlar. Niye Balıkesir sarsılıyor hep diye. Niye Balıkesir sarsılıyor? Arkadaşlar, Balıkesir, Marmara ve Ege'nin ortak fay hattıdır. Balıkesir, Marmara ve Ege'nin ortak fay hattıdır. Tamam mı? Balıkesir eğer o fay hattı kırılırsa hem Ege hem Marmara aynı anda yıkılacak. Allah korusun. Bu İzmir'i, Balıkesir'i, İstanbul'u özellikle Balıkesir'deki fay hattından sarsmaya çalışıyorlar. Yapay bir deprem.
Fay hatlarının hemen altında, bitişiğinde ya da komşusunda bulunur. Bunu herhalde büyük aklı başında devletlerin yasakladığı diyorum. Komple teorisi diyenler artık ne olur bir kenara bırakıp sussunlar. Hidrokarbon nedir biliyor musunuz? Tüm büyük aklı başında devletlerin yasakladığı bir maden ve petrol arama yöntemidir. Petrol nerelerde bulunur? Eski fay hatlarında, mevcut fay hatlarının hemen altında, bitişiğinde ya da komşusunda bulunur. Bunu herhalde biliyorlardır. Bu alanlarda bu rezerve bir an evvel ulaşmak için eğer bir hidrokarbon çatlatma ya da patlatma yaparsanız 7.9 büyüklüğündeki depremlere kadar günümüzde sonuçlar vermiştir, ispatlanmıştır. Hidrolik çatlatma olarak internete yazdığınızda bunun bir komple teorisi, bizim de bir kompleci olmadığımız ortaya çıkacaktır. Bugüne kadar hiç kimse tahmin ediyorum hidrolik çatlatma nedir? Hidrolik çatlatmayla deprem tetikleme nasıl oluşur? İspatlanmış bilimsel kayıtlarıyla bunu ilk defa anlatmak istiyorum. Komple teorisi diyenler artık ne olur bir kenara bırakıp sussunlar. Hidrokarbon çatlatma nedir biliyor musunuz? Tüm büyük aklı başında devletlerin yasakladığı bir maden ve petrol arama yöntemidir. Petrol nerelerde bulunur? Eski fay hatlarında, mevcut fay hatlarının hemen altında, bitişiğinde ya da komşusunda bulunur. Bunu herhalde biliyorlardır. Bu alanlarda bu rezerve bir an evvel ulaşmak için eğer bir hidrokarbon çatlatma ya da patlatma yaparsanız 7.9 büyüklüğündeki depremlere kadar günümüzde sonuçlar vermiştir, ispatlanmıştır. Hidrolik çatlatma olarak internete yazdığınızda bunun bir komple teorisi, bizim de bir kompleci olmadığımız ortaya çıkacaktır.